But we stand, as we come into this industry, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Before, years ago, you go into somebody's shop, they'd throw a sheet over their work and you couldn't see it. Nowadays, the openness of the average maker, their willingness to help you out is amazing. And believe me, if they can help you not make the mistakes they had, this gives you the opportunity to make brand new mistakes that nobody else has done. And how awesome is that?
And you know what? You're gonna make them.
Hey guys, this is Jake. This is part 2 of when George with EDC Leather and Eric Larson of HBE Leatherworks got to meet in person for the first time in Salt Lake City at the Illume Atelier studio. Make sure to check out Illume, their link will be in the description. They have a huge catalog of online courses for anybody from novice to professional leatherworker. And now, back to the video.
Hi guys, this is George from EDC Leather in Springfield, Missouri. And today we got with us Eric Larson right here in Salt Lake.
Hey, HBE Leatherworks. Thanks
And we're stuck here. Hey, we got video, we got sound. Let's have a, we get messages, and I know that you get the messages too. Man, I want to build this is going to be my first leather project. What can we do? And I kind of cringe a little bit when I get that.
I do too.
But the reality is they can successfully do it.
They can, with some forethought, some research, not jumping in with both feet to begin with. Yeah. Anybody really can make a good holster. They can.
Absolutely. There's enough resources out there. Let's talk about a social media resource. Holsters for Handguns.
On Facebook.
USA Holster Makers.
Yep.
2 fantastic resources, a lot of cross-pollination between the members, but people that will help you out. There's photographs, there's files. Get you a good place to start. Now, there's a good sources for patterns, Adams.
Yep.
Holsters, and ours, EDC Leather.
Yep.
Okay. These are patterns that are not just made to be sold as patterns. These are products that we sell every day. So the pattern's vetted.
Well, yeah, they work. That's the thing.
And for example, we worked with one of my holsters today.
Yes.
That was clicked out. Before you even started, you said, I know exactly how tight this is going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Because you see my work. So you could get going doing that way, but now we're going to need some supplies.
Yep.
Okay? Since they killed the first woolly mammoth, they've been doing leather work. So for a holster maker, let's look at their means of what they do, okay? And then the level of education that they're going to have to use it. So the first thing that's going to come to everybody's mind is a stitcher.
Yeah, and you know what? The first 100 holsters I make, I actually subbed out to a local shoe repair guy, because stitchers are very expensive. Even a cheap stitcher is going to cost you between $1,500 and $2,000. Okay.
We were there too, paid $5 a holster.
Yeah, I was right there too.
And when I realized that I was spending almost $1,000 a week, it's like, oh crap. And we went and bought 2 stitchers.
That's when you buy a stitcher. But for me, I started off dyeing leather on my kitchen table, back in the mid to late 90s. And I was using upholstery leather.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah, that's when Lou called me. But anyway, so a stitcher is nice, and don't rule it out, but there are ways around it.
Absolutely.
So,
they've been hand stitching leather forever.
Yeah.
Your first leather project, if you're hand stitching, is not a holster. Your first leather project is a ton of leather scraps that you've hand stitched. I can hand stitch okay. On the top, it looks great. Nice sawtooth pattern. On the back, it looks like Popeye went on a bench and he's wandering all over the street. I am not a hand stitcher. Yeah. The next thing you look at, these Chinese shoe patching machines. If you're willing to dedicate a couple months of work into it, you can get the thing to sew.
You can, but you're limited to foot height, you're limited to thread weight. So, and for most holsters, we're sticking with between 207 and
277 and 207 is what we use.
That's what I use too, but I've seen 177 up to 347.
And I've seen 346. Dan Collins at Oklahoma, he runs through 346 and 277. He uses his stitching.
He used to use 400 series rope.
Unless he did the same thing as Dan does, in which his stitching was part of his design aesthetic. I mean, Lou used to put a stylized L in half of his stitching. If you look at it, he's initialing the holster with thread.
Yeah. We miss Lou. Love you, Lou.
Yep. You go, brother.
So, yeah, a good, back to what we're talking about, a Model 29 Singer, a patcher, okay? You can pick them up and they'll work. They will work. You can find a used industrial machine like a Conso, a Juki, used for, I've seen them as cheap as $250 up to a really clean one that they run between $500 and $700.
We just bought those jump foot machines, those the Toro 900s for like $400.
Yeah, great machine.
And it's a great machine. It'll sew 30 ounces of leather. It doesn't care.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's get back to this, guys. So we talk about these machines. Everybody, and you can tell a new holster maker. First thing he does comes in and goes, what stitcher to use? And my response is, who cares? All the stitchers are exactly the same. They do the same stitch, okay? And its only job is to hold two pieces of leather together, and you're only putting 5 minutes of that work into the holster. It's not that important. If you want to be able to get by, get time, be profitable, you're going to have to get a stitcher. Find one near you. Unless you're a mechanic, get one new.
Yeah.
Okay? Find one that's near you, so if you have problems, you can get help. Okay? And then get on with it, because it's not that critical of a machine. Now, let's talk about other tools in your shop. Hand tools. We use very spendy tools to mold a holster, and you saw and played with them.
Yeah.
All right, give a quick description of what you use to mold a holster.
I use a 15-year-old Sharpie. I use the back side of one of my edgers. I use a chrome-plated bullet. I use anything and everything I can to mold a holster. That's where you're really not limited to anything except your creativity and what you have on hand. So, molding tools, there are edgers that Craft Tool makes a great $15 edger that if you're starting out, you don't need to spend 90 bucks on an edger like you do.
Yeah. Oh, but now on the molding tools,
Yeah.
Candy makes a stainless steel bone folder with a curve to it.
Yeah.
And every time, because we drop things and it gets burrs on it, so every time they get them at our local Tandy, I buy them out. And I keep like 8 of them in the shop at all times. Because we drop it, we throw it, they're like 20 bucks a piece. But that is the finest tool in the world to be able to lay down right in front of an ejection port, and you go a half twist and it's done.
Yeah.
It's an amazing tool.
It's quick.
And they had no intention to use it for that when we did it. But like you said on the molding, I'm sorry when I interrupted.
We're fine.
Yeah, where were we at on that? You'd said?
Well, basically you can use anything for molding tools.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be big enough to put some leverage on it, because as easy as some of the videos you'll see or watching people mold, things online or even in person, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of pressure, it takes a lot of strength, and the more leverage you can put on it, the better consistency you're going to get, the more evenness. And molding, honestly, it's about developing a flow and a style of your own, but you need to find the right tools to get that started.
One of the big tools that Garrett used for the multiple radiuses, he had 5-inch bolts, and he put different size acorn nuts on them.
Yeah.
Used them for years.
Yep.
They did a good job. Now, we'd also mentioned that, a lot of the tools that we use in our shop are pretty expensive. But we're a production shop. Anything, if I could spend $1,000 and reduce the risk of the guy that's molding all my holsters of getting carpal tunnel problems or joint problems, I'll do it every day.
Sure.
Because I have to protect the guys that are doing that. And we find that a lot of times we spend the money, we're getting that research into the ergonomics of that tool.
Sure.
The chairs and stools that we use, we buy in stools, we take them apart, we rebuild them to fit the guys for what they're doing. It's critical, because if we have one guy go down to my shop, we're just a 4-man shop. 25% of our production just went away. And some jobs only one fella does. Okay? But when you're there, so for molding, you can do that. An easy way to protect yourself in molding is the old Harbor Freight 12-ton
Press. I've got one in my
jack
garage.
press.
Yep, an H-frame.
Yep, an H-frame press, a couple pieces of steel and 4 inches of gum rubber. And what you do is you get that initial blocking out of the holster. One of the guys called me up the other day. He had gotten a Kydex press, one of the ones that comes down like this, and used the super foam, and he was getting fantastic results.
Wow.
And he was in it for less than 80 bucks.
Yep.
He wanted to experiment with the Kydex. I haven't done it, but if it does the job, it does the job.
Yep. And one thing that I want to tell everybody is there are so many ways to do everything we're talking about. The way George and I are discussing this are ways that have worked for us in the past. He's got so much. His whole family has been in the leather business
since the 1700s.
Yeah, generations. You know, I've been doing this for a living for over 20 years and 25 years total, and I had some of the best makers in the world. You know, so I got spoiled in that regard. So I learned the ways that I do things, and you do the way you do things, and what works for us.
And both of us, so from the help that we get, is like I said, this is one of my mentors, guys. This is the guy I used to call and send pictures to every day. Yeah. But we stand, as we come into this industry, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Before, years ago, you go into somebody's shop, they'd throw a sheet over their work and you couldn't see it. Nowadays, the openness of the average maker, their willingness to help you out is amazing. And believe me, if they can help you not make the mistakes they had, this gives you the opportunity to make brand new mistakes that nobody else has done. And how awesome is that?
And you know what? You're going to make them.
Yeah.
You're going to make them.
You're gonna make
Nothing will teach you faster, okay?
Yep. So let's think about some essentials. What do you have to have? Leather.
Leather, okay, not just leather, but the right leather, okay? Leather comes in different ways of being tanned. Okay?
Absolutely.
For holsters, what we're talking about, you want veg tan leather. It comes in different densities. It comes in different weights, and that all can be discussed. But what you want is a good medium weight, firm leather, okay? Firm leather comes from the upper half of the
If you'll
cow.
think about the cow, the part of the cow that does not move is going to be denser leather. I think when we have to give, without going into just hours of discussion with suppliers, we can really help everybody along by saying there are 2 American tanneries.
Yep. Herman Oak and Wickett and Craig.
And Wickett and Craig, they're both outstanding.
Yep.
Okay. Wickett and Craig they're great. You can buy a single side of leather. If you want to buy direct from Herman Oak, you're buying 10 sides, but they're distributor based. And most of the good distributors are willing to cut a piece of leather for you as small as a square foot.
Yep.
So we have Panhandle, Springfield Leather.
Yep.
I think Aaron at Makers, he'll do that.
Use the right leather. When I started off, I was using a cheaper veg tan, back and shoulder hide, and one of my main teachers recommended Herman Oak to me. The first time I used Herman Oak leather, my production time, literally, between cutting it out, edging, gluing, stitching, was cut in half, okay? The leather was, let's say, $3 more a square.
Right.
Okay, but it cut my production time in half the first time I used it.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely, do not even question it. Buy good leather.
On holsters is a little different than I would say some of the leather work you do. And here's how I express this.
Okay.
If you build a wallet or a belt for somebody and the wallet fails, the guy's mad at you.
Yeah.
Okay, but he didn't die.
Nope.
Okay, you build a holster, you do poor design, you use poor products, it fails, you may very well have killed that man or his family. So let's do it right the first time.
That's not an exaggeration.
No, that's real.
What we do for a living, okay, people's lives are seriously, I mean, it doesn't.
It depends on it.
Yeah, it doesn't get any more serious than that. So use good stuff. Start with good proven patterns like you're talking about, vetted patterns, good material, good techniques, proven techniques, you know.
I think though, once you've done that for a year or two, Now you can go back. I can send one of my guys into Tandy. I would never let him go before, okay? But now he can walk in, he'll give me a call and he says, hey, George, this will make a pretty good IWB. Hey, bring it in, let's try it. So literally, instead of starting out with no experience at Tandy, in our industry, once you have experience, now you can go look at alternative leather suppliers that you may not have considered in the beginning because you have the knowledge of what structures you need.
Yeah, how to identify good leather, you know, what it looks like, feels like, smells like, and all of that, you know.
I think I taught you too about burning leather.
Yeah.
Okay, and the amount of information you can get from looking at the ash from leather.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Very unique. Very unique.
Well, my granddad was a little bit unique. I am a big fan of the disposable click-off blade razor knives. We use them in my shop. We use a brand called Alpha. Seems to work the best, and I think actually Springfield Leather carries it. And if you get the black blades, they're really, really super thin.
Which you need.
And it helps.
The thinner the blade you use for leather, the better off you are. Trust me.
Less drag as you're going through.
Drag is everything, resistance. So, not just for the utility knives, okay? Tandy sells a blue-handled pair of leather shears that work very well. They're between 20 and 30 bucks, and I still use them in my shop every day.
Really?
I hand cut everything. You die cut everything because you're a production shop. But a good set of leather shears is priceless.
Let's talk about adhesives. We use Masters exclusively. I grew up using Masters.
Yep.
And why change? If in my mind,
I've used Masters, I use Weldwood, I use Barge. Okay, Barges. All three are great. It depends on really what's available. Okay, I mean, especially with this COVID stuff, everything was gone off the shelves.
yeah, there was the great Weldwood shortage of 2022 this spring.
Dude, I'm telling you, the only thing that was available was the non-smelly Weldwood.
Right.
And it was 40 bucks a quart, which...
On the other hand, when they have it, okay, Masters, Barge, these are hazmat materials. You have to ship them. It's expensive. Weldwood you can get at Lowe's, Home Depot. You know. So guys, these adhesives that we're talking about are contact adhesives. These are not rubber cements. They're not leather cements. They are contact adhesives. Look up on these brands, read about them, get familiar about them, and talk to some other makers you may know and respect, and they will guide you with what they use. Oftentimes, I think, even if you're using a product that may not be superior to another product, if you learn the techniques to use that one properly, you win.
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely.
So we got adhesives. We know that we have to have that.
Yep.
One last statement on that. There are some outstanding water-based contact cements. I have zero familiarity with them, so I cannot speak to them. But with a quick question on social media, you can usually get some good data there, I think. We need edgers.
Okay, edgers. Again, you can go to Springfield Leather. You can go to some of the bigger distributors like that in you know, anywhere in the country. You can go to a Tandy. Edgers, the more you spend on an edger, up to a point, it is worth it. I still have craft tool edgers that cost me $7 20 years ago that I sharpen. I have an edger sharpener that I use at least, you know, once or twice a month, and they won't die.
This is one of this is from Barry King, and he sent this to us to use for this class. A very specific edger, and a lot of people are going to think that it's a bissonette.
Yeah.
And I'll hold still for a minute and see if we can get a close-up of this.
I have a close-up.
Okay. So it is not a bissonette. This is a sharp radius edger designed to edge inside the belt slots on holsters.
Yeah.
So the holsters that you molded today, did you see how smooth that was?
Tight radius.
That
Beautiful.
is that. And I think that's $35. But that's the only real job it does.
And it is still a bissonette style edger.
But it has it's a style, but it's not a true bissonette.
Yeah. A bissonette you can push and pull instead of just being able to push.
Right. And this has got a lot tighter radius.
Yeah, a bissonette is a bidirectional edger, and this is a beautifully made edger.
Carving leather, fantastic. We talked about this a little bit in the class that we just filmed.
Tooling.
About how you can protect your carvings. The laser is not a bad option for decorating. I really like it.
Yep.
Except for, I got a lot of guys out there and they want to cut their leather with a laser. Just quit. Stop. You should have your hands slapped. Understand, you can cut leather with a laser.
You can.
I was down at Circle Y Saddlery last year, okay? And they have got a 180 watt laser. It nests the entire saddle out, puts the side out, and it cuts it out. But that thing is moving like 600 millimeters per second, cutting 12-ounce skirting.
And it's,
okay,
what, $50,000 laser or more?
150,000.
Yeah, okay.
But what they're doing is it's moving fast enough that we're not superheating the edges of the leather. Okay, when you're using your 100 or your 80 or your 60 watt laser, you are superheating the edges. You're damaging it. You're creating charcoal. Just quit. If you want to be a leather worker, get a knife. Be a leather worker. Jump into the rest of us. We have arthritis. We'll share ibuprofen with you, brother. You know, don't get into a kneeling contest with a leather molder.
Okay, lasers, excuse me, are great for right now. I've got 2 orders. One of them wants a Marine symbol, the USMC.
Eagle over naked.
Yep. Wants it burned into a holster. And then I've got another guy that's given me a little leniency, but he wants some laser work on it as well. And I use a local company now.
Yes, good deal.
Yeah, very cost effective.
Laser work you'll find is a lot like Kydex. It's very regional. There are not a lot of global guys doing laser or Kydex. They're usually the local guy doing stuff. So it's fantastic. You get a local guy you can work with, talk the same language. Guys, these lasers that we use on this kind of stuff do not have to be expensive.
$400 on eBay.
I think we pay $350 or $400. Yeah. We on our process though, because we cut so much acrylic for templates, we have another $200 we invest before the laser's ever turned on.
Sure.
But then we run it until it pops, and
it dies. You toss it, and you buy another.
We give it to somebody that's a hobbyist that's willing to spend some more time rebuilding it, and we bring another one in, and so they win, we win. And if I need something to hurry, I can get a hold of those guys, and I can, hey, do me a solid, you know.
You got it. For the guys that are on the more artistic side of leather, I'm a concealment specialist. That's what I do. I specialize in CCW leather, so I don't do a lot of tooling. Okay, it's just kind of the nature of my aspect of that business. I know a guy locally that does nothing but Western holsters, and he's very good at it. In fact, he's one of the top in the nation, and he's
a tooler.
He can tool anything.
Right, but we can also tool these retention holsters to a point. I really love what Peter Main does, okay? And this whole school of thought, I believe if you want to decorate a retention holster, this modeling spoon is the way to go. Do not take a swivel knife. Do not cut through the dermis in the middle of a retention holster.
It weakens
That's
it.
insanity.
Yeah.
You're weakening it all down. But these guys that Peter Main's showing using these new modeling tools, you can't tell the difference.
Well, and you're increasing the strength of the holster.
You're creating rigidity in lines.
You got it.
I don't know how to do that. I don't want to know how to do it.
I don't know how to do it.
You know, to me, decorations on a holster is a value add. We bring exotics on board. Yeah. We'll bring a decorative dye technique on board that doesn't take time. I've got something cool that I'll show you pictures of, but we've actually developed a new dyeing technique.
I think we've
just finalized.
Yeah, good. No, you sent me pictures. You guys will love this. So
yeah, I think at the Pendleton show this year in November, we're going to release the product. I'm going to bring like 400 bottles of it.
Cool.
And I think people are going to lose their minds. It's going to be fun.
It's cool. There are some makers, and I'll mention Caleb Collar out of Montana. Does things with finishes, with dyes, that just are superb.
Yep.
Superb. Very talented kid. Talented kid. Hey, Caleb. But like you brought up, exotics.
For me,
that's my love.
It's a very good way for me as a maker to do it because I've already designed the structure into it. I'm not really going to get any structure from my exotic. I may get some from the glue.
No, yeah.
Okay, but at that point, it's an effective way for me to customize the look of a holster for a client. Okay, it increased profitability.
if done correctly, it adds to durability. If
Absolutely,
if you add shark or elephant to an outside the waistband holster,
Absolutely.
and if you're a maker, you'll understand this. Clients come one of two ways. There are clients that will put on a pancake holster and sit down in your shop and stand up, and it's torn, it's scratched, it's got paint from door jambs on it, it's been stabbed by a seatbelt post in his car, and it basically looks like he's worn it for 10 years every day, and he hasn't even done anything, okay? If you're one of those guys, shark or elephant hide, even a trim piece on the outside of an outside the waistband holster will save you. The stuff is so durable. The accent piece may cost between $30 and $75, depending on what the hide
sometimes
is.
if you do it right, you may only spend $2 or $3. Here we go. One of the holsters we were working on today.
Yeah.
Okay. This reinforcement panel right here,
Yep.
75 cents of elephant, $1.
Yeah.
Adds $50 retail value.
Wow.
Exotic trim. The way we look at this and the way we try to teach most of our students to deal with this is, number one, the American public has been trained by the American retailing establishment, and in this case I'm going to use automotive,
Okay.
that this car has a certain value. Now you buy the trim package, and this is what it consists of, and it costs this much money.
And it adds this much, and it carries over.
We do the same thing. Now on the same deal, when I do a snap cake, which you saw today before it got ran off with,
Sure.
now I have a loop coming around on both sides, right? That gets exotic, that gets exotic, same price. I don't charge any more. If you want me to do a full overlay, $85.
See, I do charge more because for me, time is money, and it probably takes me a little more time to do it.
The way we do it, don't laugh. When I get an alligator in, when I get elephant panels, and like Jerry Van Amberg,
Hey,
Jerry, we
Jerry.
love you, brother. The best hippie I ever met.
Talking about you earlier today, dude.
When we get an elephant panel from him, and you never know what size you're going to get, and Jerry doesn't know when he gets it in, I will glue up that whole hide to veg immediately.
Wow.
And it'll sit for, and we'll hand hammer it out, and it'll sit for 2 or 3 days. Now, when I need it, I click the exotic together with the veg.
And you're done.
But also, it rolls my edges. It does everything the way we want. I believe it makes a better product. So for me, when I'm clicking those straps, I've already got that edge there. I just wham them out.
Yeah.
And so I've supported the value that the exotic deserved.
Yeah.
Okay. But, and I think I've given a little better product because we have that freedom of hammering it, letting it glue up and sit stable for a week.
And see, I wish I had that option. So, and just so you guys know, every exotic on the planet, I get this question at least a couple of times a month from people, okay? How come a shark holster is thicker than a standard holster? All exotics have no structure, okay? It's just like upholstery leather. It's just like your bomber jacket that you wear when you ride your motorcycle, okay? It's flimsy. There's no structure to it. All exotics have to be bonded to standard holster leather.
On exotics, I do want to cover one point because this is a point that you and I had.
Okay.
And it was a bit of contention last year until we finally, we agreed with what our views were, okay?
Okay.
Shark is a great, cost-effective exotic for you to start with in this industry.
It is. It is.
Okay, but I have some ethical problems with shark. Okay? Shark is one of the few animals that is trapped, hunted, killed on this planet, in many cases just for the leather.
Yeah.
Just for its skin. It is non-regulated, and they are decimating the populations. The shark that we got 15 years ago does not even look anything like what you're getting today. They're getting immature animals. I believe that industry is destroying this breeding population. I think we're going to have some real problems there. Okay?
I would tend to agree.
Now, everybody tells you that elephants are wonderful, which they are. They're wonderful creatures, okay? But elephants are super highly regulated. And if you buy from a quality vendor, and let's say like a Springfield Leather,
Yeah.
it's going to come with the city's tag on it.
Yep.
It was harvested in Zimbabwe by the government in most cases, okay, as a cull, as a province of this nature, as they manage their herds of elephant, and they are making sure that they succeed and that they get to exist. Also, if you want to pay for everything it takes to defend that population from unethical assholes, sorry guys, but that's what they are, okay, and they need to have happen to them what happens to the creatures that they attack, okay? And if you want to defend those creatures, buying that product really does that. And if you don't believe it, you don't have to believe it, but I went there and I saw it and I talked to the people and I have friends over there still. So it's legit.
Zimbabwe is one of the only countries that their base economy is
exotics.
Yeah. It's hunting and exotic exports, that kind of stuff. So if you get something from Zimbabwe, the CITES tag is
but still there is still a market, and people even faking those. Buy from
poachers.
A quality vendor, and for example, you can get from like your Springfield leather, your Panda, that,
and they can track. They can good vendor is going to be able to track that exotic.
But I'm going to tell you what, in this country, for those kinds of the Saharan exotics, I don't think if you want to be safe and you want to make sure those animals are treated, with respect, you go with Sherry Van Amberg. The guy knows where it comes from.
Yeah.
And it's not a computer deal. He's talking to them and deciding what he's going to get.
Dyes. We need to talk about dyes.
Really, in America, I believe you have Phoebings and you have Angelus.
Angelus is Angelus Shoe Polish Company, which I still love. You can buy direct from them. Springfield carries Angelus.
I believe Frog Jelly carries it as well.
Yeah. Tandy carries Phoebings. If you are going to get either one of these dyes, stay away from the water-based dyes. Leave that for the Boy Scouts and the crafts moms. Stick with a good alcohol-based dye. And here's a tip for you. Phoebings Pro Oil dye is not an oil dye. It's still an alcohol-based dye. A lot of people don't know that.
Well, what happened, and they've actually changed the name just to Pro Dye.
I know.
So what it was designed as a dye by Phoebings that would dye an oil tan.
Yes.
And it was aggressive enough to penetrate because they used MEK back then. Okay, and it would penetrate, but then everybody got to thinking it had oil in it.
Yeah.
And I know you've seen 400 guys post long things about it. All I know is that I talked to the guys that own the company. And this is what they tell me and what I've used. We use Angelus dye exclusively in my shop. A problem we run into, Tom at Angelus absolutely hates what we do with his dye.
I know.
He thinks we're terrible people for doing a submersion dye.
He doesn't understand.
For what it does to the leather. It is bad for the leather overall, okay? But with the other things we're doing, with creating the additional density, the dye, the molding, and then the sealing.
It serves a purpose.
It serves a purpose. We're kind of creating a poor man's compound product there, where we have acrylic and then a boundary layer, then leather, then another boundary layer. So we're making kind of a manufactured structure there in order to get the strength we want. But Tom, hey guys, Angelus, I love you. Please sell to me from now on, even though you don't like what I do with your product.
Thread. A lot of the old school boys are still into cotton.
Or linens,
or linen, you got it. Because of everything that the holsters that I make go through as far as abrasive resistance, chemicals, sweat, everything, I stick with a good poly or nylon thread. And
so they have two different properties, okay? We use bonded poly.
Yep.
Okay, very little stretch. Does this a good job. But say you're going to do a saddle scabbard, and as a holster maker you're doing stuff like this, it's going to be out in the sun. The nylon has better UV resistant properties than the poly
chemical
does.
resistance.
But it has stretch.
Yeah.
So things that are going to be somewhat protected, and a holster usually is, okay? Poly is great. We use it pretty much exclusively. Then you can go to the nylons for the stuff that's going to be extended periods in the sun or chemicals.
Look into the different styles, okay, of hand stitching. okay? I mean, you've got the single, the double saddle, I mean, and it goes off from there. The different tools you need to hand stitch.
Once again, now we have a specific list of tools, what's necessary or nice to have versus not.
Yeah.
And I really can't speak to that because hand stitching is not where we're at.
What I found that I liked for hand stitching, honestly, was a Dremel with very small drill bits.
Absolutely hate that. I think that is the most insane thing. Why would we? All right, so I'm going to have to grind on you, okay?
Okay.
So if I use a Dremel tool,
Yep.
okay, or a drill, I am removing a core of leather from the piece.
Instead of pushing it out.
And if I
right.
push it out and I put it in, now it heals and locks back in, and I just think that is better. I think Dremels are, I think they're hateful and should be banned from the entire leather world.
You know what?
But I still love you and I'll buy your dinner.
I was never that good at hand stitching. I immediately, when I could, bought a stitcher. In fact, I've gone through, I'm on my 6th stitcher in 25 years, and I've had it for 20 years.
I think we've covered every tool that we can cover. So great time. We'll have other subjects. Hopefully we can do this again and again, and maybe find remote ways we can keep on doing these discussions. So fantastic. We'll catch you next time.